postponed the nuclear issue to the final agreement for various reasons, as it was truly impossible to discuss it under current circumstances. In the current agreement, the end of the war is declared on all fronts, including Lebanon. I have said this many times. We have never forgotten Lebanon in this war. This is the serious decision of the Islamic Republic of Iran, that the future of the Strait of Hormuz, the future of the management of the Strait of Hormuz, will no longer be as it was in the past. If you want to move toward an understanding, the rhetoric must change. If you want to move toward threats, pressure, and war, we are ready.
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has outlined an initial framework of understanding with Washington, hinting at a broader post-war diplomatic structure still under negotiation. Araghchi says Tehran will not return to nuclear talks unless the proposed interim agreement is first implemented, insisting on concrete action before negotiations resume. CENTCOM says U.S. forces are maintaining strict enforcement at sea, reporting dozens of commercial vessels redirected and several disabled since April. Despite diplomatic momentum, Washington continues its maritime pressure campaign, with no indication of easing restrictions on Iranian port activity. Iran's foreign minister insists the Strait of Hormuz will not revert to its pre-war arrangements, signaling a permanent shift in regional control dynamics. Araghchi reaffirms Iranian sovereignty over Hormuz, even as the Trump administration pushes for a wider agreement to end hostilities. The Iranian foreign minister links any potential deal to reopening Hormuz and broader regional de-escalation, including the conflict in Lebanon. Reports suggest Iran's leadership circle is working to secure long-term post-war strategic terms as negotiations with the U.S. intensify. The Trump administration is pursuing a possible diplomatic breakthrough while CENTCOM continues applying pressure on Iran's maritime trade routes. Iran is making sanctions and blockade relief a key condition for advancing into the next phase of negotiations with Washington.
These negotiations, which will lead to the end of the war, are envisioned in two stages. The first stage is a memorandum of understanding to be signed between Iran and the United States. Then, negotiations for the second stage will begin, and subsequently, in the second stage, we will have a final agreement. We postponed the nuclear issue to the final agreement for various reasons, as it was truly impossible to discuss it under current circumstances. The demands they had were in no way acceptable. Therefore, we brought up other issues that could be agreed upon in the first stage and postponed the nuclear issue to the second stage, which is, of course, a more difficult phase for which 60 days of negotiation have been envisioned. In the second stage, or the final agreement, the nuclear issue, alongside the issue of lifting sanctions on Iran and one or two other matters that I will mention at another time, will be reviewed and a final agreement will be reached. In the current agreement, which is called a Memorandum of Understanding and is known as the Islamabad Memorandum, or has been named the Islamabad Memorandum, the end of the war is declared on all fronts, including Lebanon. I have said this many times. We have never forgotten Lebanon in this war, because Lebanon and Hezbollah of Lebanon have, in any case, fought alongside the people of Iran in this war, and we will never leave them alone. In the ceasefire that was announced, the ceasefire was on all fronts, including Lebanon. Now, putting aside the fact that the Zionist regime violated it multiple times, to which Hezbollah responded, we responded wherever necessary, and in my opinion, this response itself was another strategic achievement. For the first time, we were the ones who initiated the offensive to punish a regime that had, in any case, reneged on its commitments, and this was recorded on the global stage as a strategic victory for Iran, showing that Iran is not joking and that if necessary, it is not only not afraid of war but will employ it wherever required. There is the issue of lifting the naval blockade, the discussion of what topics the next round of negotiations will include, the Iranian nuclear issue, the issue of lifting sanctions, and the topic of reconstruction, which has been proposed here in the form of a reconstruction and economic development plan, the mechanisms of which will be agreed upon during the subsequent negotiations, along with other issues that will arise. The discussion of Iran's blocked funds, for which a mechanism has been defined, are matters included in the Memorandum of Understanding and agreed upon in the first stage. I must state explicitly that this agreement has enemies, at the head of which is the Zionist regime, and they are looking for pretext to derail this agreement. Our position is clear. If we were going to yield to force and pressure, we would have yielded long ago. If threats of attacking infrastructure or other threats were going to make us back down, we would have backed down long ago. But that is not the case. Very clear messages were sent to the other side that threats have a reverse effect. If you want to move toward an understanding, the rhetoric must change. If you want to move toward threats, pressure, and war, we are ready. This is the serious decision of the Islamic Republic of Iran, that the future of the Strait of Hormuz, the future of the management of the Strait of Hormuz, will no longer be as it was in the past. When I say the future of management, it is because our sovereignty has always existed, exists now, and will always exist. No one can challenge Iran's sovereignty over this strait, of course, with Oman. But whether the management of this strait, the management of the traffic in this strait, will be as it was in the past, it will certainly not be as it was in the past.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that we will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.